Welcome back to Matt's Movie Nights, the show where I recommend movies and then we talk about them. Last time we did a British satanic horror triple feature. Hammer being the primary company here, but I threw in one non-Hammer movie. But to start us off, we have Hammer horror classic, The Devil Rides Out. The Devil Rides Out is about Christopher Lee, who's this older guy who has a history with, like, the occult, and he's friends with this other guy and a younger man, and it seems the younger man has fallen in with a coven of Satanists, who that night have a plan to, slaughter a chicken and then make a girl the bride of the devil? And she's going to be taken back to hell with the devil, I believe is how that goes down. Maybe they're gonna sacrifice her? I'm kinda unclear on that, if they're gonna sacrifice her or not. But, at the very least, they have plans to make this woman the devil's bride, which, is the American title and the title that this Blu-ray has on the film, The Devil's Bride. Although, it's got this sick-ass opening credits. It's like all these, like, wild occult symbols as, like, the credits play, and I'm like, God, if someone walked in on me right now, like, could I explain this to them? Because it's not a pro-occult movie, I'll definitely say that much. This is, you know, Hammer was a very Catholic company. I've said this before. I've mentioned some of their more Catholic films, some of the more Catholic leanings in their films. And this one, they don't explicitly go after Catholicism, but the Satanists are decidedly the bad guys, right? The Satanists are the villains, and there's a guy here who's going to stop. Christopher Lee is here to stop them. This movie is awesome. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. That maybe goes without saying. I love Hammer horror movies. I love satanic horror movies. I especially love 70s satanic. Oh, this is the 60s, isn't it? Yeah, 68. Fuck. So this is even like pre-70s satanic horror, although it feels pretty in line with some of the other satanic horror films of the 70s. I love 70s satanic horror. This is 60s satanic horror, but it works. Come to think of it, I kind of love 60s satanic horror too. There's not as many of them. Satanic horror was not as big of a thing in the 60s. I'm thinking about, like, Mario Bava's Black Sunday, and offhand, that's all I can think of, although I'm sure there's more. Like, I'm certain there are satanic horror films from the 60s that I am just not remembering right now. But, well, fuck. Rosemary's Baby was the 60s, wasn't it? Fuck, okay. Rosemary's Baby, there's one. Another film I fucking love, right? I love all these 60s satanic horror films. There's just not nearly as many in the 60s as there were in the 70s. But what's really cool about this one is it's one of the few films I've seen that chooses to depict Baphomet. Baphomet appears in this film. Like, he appears up on the... Well, okay, the Goat of Mendez. Let's be clear. The Goat of Mendez. I don't know if the goat from The Witch is actually the Goat of Mendez, come to think of it. I assume so? I'm gonna have to rewatch The Witch. I've only seen it, like, once. But I do love this shirt. This is a shirt I love very much. So, the Goat of Mendez, but the Goat of Mendez, Baphomet, they're interchangeable in a lot of ways. And he doesn't do much. He appears sitting up on a rock. And honestly, it reminds me of, like, an animatronic you would see on, like, a dark ride. Because he's just kind of sitting there. He doesn't really move around that much. It's a very static Baphomet. To be fair, they don't keep him on screen that long. He sort of, like, appears from a fog, and then they're like, nope, we're getting the fuck out of here. So you don't get to see a lot of them, but it's so cool to fucking see like a live action Baphomet in a film. That does not happen. They'll use the image of Baphomet, but you do not see a lot of live action Baphomets. I think in recent years, I think we've seen a few CG ones, although I'm hard pressed to think of any. But, you know, if it showed up today, it would be CG and not the sick-ass actual puppet they have in this movie. I don't even know if it's a puppet. It's kind of a costume for a person. You can even... He's on the box here, although that's not exactly what he looks like in the film. And he definitely does not pick up a girl and carry her. He is not capable of that. He is capable of sitting on top of a rock, and that's about it. Which is where my animatronic on a dark ride comparison came from, because he can't move from where he is. Just up on a rock. Man, if there was a Devil Rides Out dark ride, whatever theme park wants to make a Devil Rides Out ride, I will come ride that ride. That sounds awesome as hell. Hell. No pun intended. Once again directed by Terrence Fisher. Another Terrence Fisher joint for this show. He directed all the Hammer horror movies. Not all of them, but he was clearly their biggest contributor, right? The majority of Hammer horror films are directed by Terrence Fisher. You know, the way most Full Moon movies are directed by Charles Band. Although in that case, Charles Band is the owner of the company, and I don't think Terrence Fisher was the owner of Hammer, although I can't say that with any certainty. Also, Terrence Fisher is a way better director than Charles Band. I'm sorry, he just is. Stars Christopher Lee, who's gotta be in the running for the actor we've seen most. I would bet Peter Cushing is beating him out, because there's the one Dracula movie that has Peter Cushing and not Christopher Lee, although we also saw the Dracula movie with Christopher Lee and not Van Helsing, Peter Cushing. But Peter Cushing has the entire Frankenstein lineup from Hammer Horror, and Christopher Lee is only in the first one. He plays the monster in the first one. So this is only like the second Christopher Lee movie we've seen without Peter Cushing in it, I think. I'm trying to think, though. I think all we've seen Christopher Lee in so far has been Hammer Horror. The bad guy in this picture is Charles Gray, the original Blofeld? I forget who was first, him or Donald Pleasance, but he played Blofeld quite well, I might add, for a role that is kind of associated with Donald Pleasance, who's an amazing actor. Like, it's hard to go toe-to-toe with Donald Pleasance, but this guy absolutely does. Charles Gray goes toe-to-toe perfectly with, fuck, I'm so bad with names. Donald Pleasance's Blofeld. He also is, the inspector in Rocky Horror Picture Show. The one who doesn't sing, but he'll come in the middle of a song and be like, "It's just a jump to the left." He plays the villain. He's the leader of this coven of Satanists. Along with him, you got Leon Green, who was in Flash Gordon. Yay! I see, when I was saying, oh, Christopher Lee hasn't been in any other movies, I had this moment of like, wait, was he in Flash Gordon? No, it was Max von Sydow. It was Max von Sydow that was in Flash Gordon. The boy is played by Patrick Mower, but it doesn't look like he's been in anything super noteworthy. It mostly seems like a British TV actor. He's been on a lot of British TV shows, although, you know what else he's in? Cry of the Banshee. He's like one of the main characters in Cry of the Banshee as well, and I didn't know that before I paired these movies, but like, that's a pretty good pairing, I think, although when we get to the Cry of the Banshee, there are a few other movies I think it pairs well with. But he also plays a Satanist in that movie. So like, what's up? Why this guy is just, oh, I'm gonna play a Satanist in every British horror film. That was only like 2 years after this. Maybe someone saw him in this and was like, hey, come play a Satanist in this movie. Devil Rides Out, just a really entertaining film. One of Hammer's best. I think, I don't want to tip my hand too far, but I think I would rank this, like, third best Hammer horror movie. Two others I would put above this. One of them is Dracula. Horrors of Dracula's gotta be at the very top. That's the #1 Hammer horror film. We'll talk about the other one in just a second. After that, we watched the Vincent Price film Cry of the Banshee, which was the inspiration for a metal song. It's not a very good song, but it is on the Brutal Legend soundtrack, which is a really good soundtrack. It's one of the weaker tracks on there, but, you know, if I'm listening to the Brutal Legend soundtrack, I'll listen to Cry of the Banshee. Cry of the Banshee is a film about this lord in ancient England. I guess ancient England. They're all English. We'll pretend it's England. If it's not, someone else can correct me. This family in ancient England who's kind of trying to stamp out all the pagans. This is like the end of the pagan era and the beginning of Christendom in England. So they're trying to stamp out the last few remaining pagans, although it's weird that the pagans all worship Satan, because that's some shit like the old church would pull. They would see some pagan ritual and be like, it's satanic, it's Satan that's they're worshipping. They're worshipping Satan. It's like, no, they're worshipping some old gods. You don't know what you're talking. You're just accusing them of worshipping Satan because you don't like the people they're actually worshipping. In this movie, they just straight up worship Satan. They say it several times, although they summon a banshee. I guess it's a banshee. That's what the title of the movie is. They don't really elaborate in the film, but they summon a banshee, which is the sort of horrific werewolf-like creature, and they kind of seem to be acting like they worship the banshee. The banshee's the one he's their protector, right? So they're kind of worshipping the banshee and treating him as if he's Satan. So is Satan the banshee? I'm not totally sure. It's weird occult nonsense. But, you know me, I love some weird occult nonsense in my movies. Ooh, we'll get to it. Vincent Price's family is trying to stamp out these pagans, and there's this pagan leader who's like out in the woods with all of her worshippers, and they kind of turn a curse on the house of Vincent Price and his family. Edward Whitman is his name. Lord Edward Whitman. So in an odd way, the Satanists are kind of the good guys. Like, they are the sympathetic characters, right? They're the ones who are being hunted down and discriminated against, and they're like, well, we're summoning the Banshee to defend us from the evils of Vincent Price and his family. And, like, Vincent Price ends up losing in the end. So, yeah, the Satanists are kind of the good guys in this movie. I'm into it. This is not Hammer's, like, pure Catholic movie, although we're about to talk about a film that diverges a little from their Catholic reputation. Not too much, but this film is a far cry from that. This is a film where the Satanists are defending themselves from an evil Christian, and I love it. I love that. I love this movie. This is a really entertaining movie. It's not nearly as well received as, like, some of the other, especially the other two films that we're talking about in this triple feature, and I don't know why. This is a really good movie. I highly recommend this to the fans of satanic British horror such as myself. I'll grant you that's maybe a small niche, but I love me some British satanic horror. 70s British satanic horror. This was 1970 exactly. so it counts as 70s satanic horror. I am a huge fan. Honestly, the two movies I think this might pair a little nicer with would be the Vincent Price movie Witchfinder General, because this almost feels like an exact sequel to that movie. Granted, Vincent Price is doing something a little different in this movie. In that one, he was explicitly the Witchfinder. He was hunting down the witches and burning them. And in this movie, he's just a local magistrate who's trying to stamp out the witches. But at the same time, it's two films where Vincent Price is hunting witches, in which he is pretty explicitly the bad guy. So this would pair very well with Witchfinder General, although what it really reminded me of is the British satanic horror film from the 70s, Blood on Satan's Claws, which I'm not as big a fan of, although I would like to rewatch it. It was good. There was stuff I liked about it. I would like to rewatch it, but it had that, especially the scenes with, like, the Satan worshippers, like, dancing around out in the woods around altars and stuff. It might even be the same location, like, straight up. If you told me they filmed these two movies in the same woods, I would believe you. But whatever way it is, it's clearly, like, the same part of England they were filming in. It's going for a very similar vibe of witches in the Middle Ages out in the forest having their fun. That said, I think I like Cry of the Banshee better than both those films, and that's maybe a controversial statement. I've heard a lot more praise for the other two films, but I enjoyed Cry of the Banshee a little more than them. I think it's a very fun, very entertaining movie. I really enjoyed watching. Though, something weird about this film, it's streaming on both Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus. I do not pay for Paramount Plus. I want to be very clear about that. My dad gets Paramount Plus for free through his work, so I am using my dad's Paramount Plus account. I would not pay for my own Paramount Plus. But it's on Prime and Paramount Plus, and on Paramount Plus, it's like widescreen in full screen, and I'm like, why? Why in the year of our Lord 2022 would you ever present a film widescreen in full screen? Just upscale it. Upscale it to fit the whole screen, man. But here's the weird thing. In spite of that, it's higher definition on Paramount Plus than it is on Amazon Prime. I was watching it on Prime and I'm like, why does this look so shitty? It's like a DVD rip of the film on Amazon Prime, and not a good DVD either. You go over to Paramount Plus, and it's in HD. It's like awkwardly in the middle of the screen, but it's at least HD. I don't know what the fuck is up with that. Why neither platform has it in like a proper aspect ratio, a proper resolution, I guess. A proper resolution, but if you have both, like I do, I would recommend watching it on Paramount Plus. But I would not recommend getting Paramount Plus, so if you just have Prime, stick with Prime. Although, maybe you should just buy a fucking Blu-ray. Maybe I should just buy a fucking Blu-ray. Is this on Blu-ray? Does this have a Blu-ray release? Time to look. Actually, I don't see a Blu-ray release of this. What the hell? Why is Cry of the Banshee not on Blu-ray? Alright, someone release the Scream Factory. Scream Factory, release Cry of the Banshee. I know you watch these videos. A representative from every boutique Blu-ray label watches these videos. I know it. This film was directed by Gordon Hessler, who made a number of British horror films. But you know what else he directed? Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. And I have a hard time thinking that's a coincidence. I'm sure one of the guys in Kiss was watching Cry of the Banshee and they're like, hey, get this guy to direct our movie. I am sure the members of Kiss are a fan of Cry of the Banshee. That just seems like something they'd be into. Other than that, he's known for, like, The Oblong Box and Scream Again, names you'd be familiar with if you know British horror, but not the biggest names in British horror. This is one of the biggest movies he's directed. This and Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. The leader of the witches, Una. It's a very funny name, and they say it so many times in this movie. Vincent Price tries to be so threatening when saying it, but it's such a silly name. He's like, Una! Una! It's a funny name. Una is played by Elizabeth Bergner, who's like an old school Hollywood actress. She was around in like the 30s and 40s was when she was big. So it's kind of nice that she got to be in something this late in her career. And I mean, this wasn't even like one of the last things she was in. She was in plenty after this. Although, like, there's a clear break in her filmography, right? She made movies in 1941, and then it's 49, 58, 62, 63, 68, and then this film. Although after this film, she's in a number of films before her death in 1986. So, good for her. This brought her career back, kinda. So, good for her. She's good. She's great in this role. And I'm sure she's one of those actresses where, like, if you knew her from the old days, it was, like, amazing to see her show back up in this. Because this is absolutely the type of role that nowadays you would give to, like, an Eartha Kitt or I don't know, you know, big names back in, like, the 70s and 80s. Like highly respected actresses in their day that can, you know, pull off a crazy-ass witch nowadays. Is Eartha Kitt still alive? I might have to double-check that. 2008. Okay, Eartha Kitt is not still alive. But you know what I mean. You know the type of actress I'm referring to. That, like, they had their heyday, and then you see them in something now, and it's like, you know, they can still absolutely bring it. Because Elizabeth Bergner does. She absolutely brings it in this film. She does great as Una. She's really the only super noteworthy cast member. Although, again, Patrick Mower's back from Devil Rides Out. Yeah, Cry of the Banshee, it's a super fun movie. It's very unique. It goes places I did not expect it to. Granted, what I could use a little more of in this film is the Banshee, because he only shows up on screen in very brief glimpses. So I could use a little more of the titular monster. Granted, it's probably because they did not have a very good suit for it, and they were kind of trying to hide how bad the suit is, but you still gotta give us one good shot of, like, here's what this thing really looks like. And even if it's a little goofy, it's like, nope, here's your, like, monster moment. You gotta have that, and this movie really doesn't. That's my only big criticism of it. Could use more Banshee. Otherwise, super fun, super entertaining film. And finally, we watched To the Devil a Daughter. One of the very last, if not the last, horror film Hammer produced. And it's like my second favorite of the entire... but behind Dracula, this is my favorite Hammer horror movie. To the Devil a Daughter is the story of this guy who agrees to house a woman who was raised in an orphanage for a while, but he comes to find out that the orphanage she was staying at is actually run by not even really Satanists. They're worshipping, like, a specific demon, Astaroth? I think it's Astaroth. And she's like involved in the Astaroth cult, and they're like planning on sacrificing her to use her as an avatar of Astaroth. This cult, of course, coven, we'll call it a cult. This coven, led, of course, by Christopher Lee. He's one of the Satanists this time. So it's kind of up to this one random dude to stop the whole cult thing. Him and there's a guy that he's with who kinda has like a thing for one of the women that are like involved, that is involved in the cult activities. So that like raises problems for him. Also he has the help of like the girl's father, technically. The girl's biological father, who was separated from her at birth as part of this satanic ritual. Because the way the ritual works, the child, at birth, the child is baptized in their mother's blood, and then years later they are rebaptized in their mother's blood once again, and so it's super overcomplicated demonic lore, and I love that shit. Like, I say this is my second favorite Hammer horror movie. That might be me and me alone. This is maybe only a movie that appeals to me. But goddamn, I love this movie. Unlike a lot of other Hammer horror movies, this one gets real risque with the sex. For one thing, there's actual nudity in it. They finally, by when was this, 76? Yeah, 76. By 76, they finally got some nudity into one of these movies. You can tell they wanted to, right? I've mentioned before, the Hammer horror trope is to get the bustiest woman possible, and then cut the shirt down to, like, right above her nips. It's like, yeah, no nudity in this film. Come on, British censors. Look, there's no nudity. This one has nudity. They got actual nudity into the film. I guess that was okay by the late 70s. Like, the whole Astaroth cult is very, sexual. It's a very naughty group of people, and I kind of appreciate that. Like, their symbol is, like, this guy spread eagle on top of the cross. Which is, it's the raddest fucking thing. I'll try to put a picture of it. I can put a picture of it up there. That's fine. It's super cool. I wish that was a more well-known symbol, because I would absolutely buy, like, a necklace with that on and wear it around. Like, the spread eagle crucifix into it. Yeah, no, it's like, far and away the most fucked up thing Hammer has ever released. And so I appreciate it for that. It's wild, disgusting, exploitive, and a hell of a lot of fun. It does have its Catholic leanings. The guy who's trying to defeat Astaroth, asks for advice from the church. In fact, the Christopher Lee's character, the head of the Astaroth cult, he was formerly a Catholic priest, and he got excommunicado because he began to believe that Astaroth is the true god, and he wanted to create an avatar of God, and the church tried to convince him, like, it's not God, it's a demon you're summoning, and he's like, no. The movie starts with him getting excommunicated, and he's like, I refuse to recant, it is not heresy. It has its Catholic leanings, but at the end of it, the way the good guy defeats him is by, like, learning the complex demonology lore and using it against him. Like, he kills one of, Christopher Lee's disciples with a big rock, and he's like, I have spread the blood of your disciple on this whole unholy ground. Now the demons shall protect me. And they do. So he uses demonic protection to save the day. Very odd twist there, I suppose. Christopher Lee just gets whisked away to hell, I guess. Or heaven. Maybe he was right. Maybe Astaroth is God. They don't confirm. Richard Widmark is the other guy the guy who's trying to stop Christopher Lee. He has some work. He was James Bowie in the Alamo movie starring well, let me make sure that is the John Wayne Alamo movie. Okay, yeah, the John Wayne Alamo movie, directed by John Wayne. Interesting, I didn't know he directed it. I do know that in an early cut of it, you can see a school bus drive by in the background. My grandpa told me that. My grandpa, not super into movies, but really into John Wayne movies. Really into westerns in general, I suppose. He's also in Coma, a Michael Crichton joint, and the earlier Murder on the Orient Express film, not the more recent one, the old school one. He also got Denholm Elliott, who's Indiana Jones' friend Brody, shows up in the first film and in Last Crusade. In fact, no, okay, he was dead by the time Crystal Skull came out. They do mention him in Crystal Skull. I remember that specifically, but because I've watched Crystal Skull very recently, not so subtle plug. A couple other noteworthy-ish actors, but yeah, you know, I don't want to just sit here and regurgitate IMDb to you. One of the very, very few films directed by Peter Sykes. Ironically, after making To the Devil a Daughter, a satanic horror film, he went on to make a film called Jesus, about the life of Jesus. So, what can you say about a guy like that's what I aspire to be. I want to make a satanic horror film and then follow it up with a movie about Jesus. To the Devil a Daughter. What else can I even say about it? I love it to death. It's just one of my it's like I said, it's one of my favorite Hammer horror films. As a fan of the very specific subgenre 70s British satanic horror, this is probably my favorite 70s British satanic horror film. Although Wicker Man would be up there. Well, we're not going to count Wicker Man as satanic, actually, come to think of it. This might be my favorite movie in that incredibly specific subgenre. But trust me, I've seen a lot of movies in that incredibly specific subgenre, so the fact that this is my number one at least says something. I've said it before, I am the world's leading expert in satanic movies, and this is my favorite in the specific subgenre of 70s British satanic horror. Honestly, probably top 5 satanic horror of the 70s in general. Maybe even top 10 satanic films of all time, although that might be pushing it. It is weird to me that it advertises this as first Rosemary's Baby, then The Exorcist, now a motion picture that probes further into the mysteries of the occult. I don't know that Rosemary's Baby, a little occult. The Exorcist, not at all. That is a very Catholic horror film, actually. I don't feel like this is in the vein of The Exorcist at all. Rosemary's Baby, maybe a little, because they are taking a baby and sacrificing it to Satan, but not even a baby. They baptize a baby in the name of Satan, and then when she's an adult, they use her as like an avatar for the devil. So I guess I see the connection between this and Rosemary's Baby, but it would not be the thing I compare it to immediately. In fact, the thing I would compare it to immediately is probably Devil Rides Out. Like, this is just a very logical double feature, you know, Hammer horror films about Satan. I think they have one more about demons, but I could be wrong. Alright, so last time I asked about your favorite non-Hammer British horror movies from, like, the 60s and 70s era. From the era that Hammer was making movies, because they, like I said, this was one of their last ones. Ooh. This was one of their last ones, and this was 76, so they were done by the end of the 70s. Let me think. Maybe Wicker Man. Wicker Man's up there. I really like Wicker Man. But I feel like I'm forgetting something. And luckily for me, our good friend John Cleveland has left a top 10. And just looking at it, he has The Devils at number 1. And he's correct. The Devils is my favorite British horror film from that era. That's not even a competition. Thank you, John, for reminding me of The Devils. I love The Devils so much. The Devils, The Wicker Man. Oh, he's got Wicker Man at number 2 as well. Look at that. Don't Look Now. I've watched Don't Look Up Now. Don't Look Now. I combined Don't Look Up and Don't Look Now. What? Oof. Very different movies. I was about to talk about how I'm not super into Don't Look Now. Way better than Don't Look Up. Million times better than Don't Look Up. Don't Look Now I've seen twice, and I feel like I didn't get it either time. I'm like, I don't follow. I don't understand what's going on. There's stuff I like about it. Visually, it's a really well-made movie. I think if you are interested in filmmaking, it is a film that is worth watching. Although, it's weird to me that that's British, because it feels very Giallo-esque. And I might like it a little more if it was a Giallo, because sometimes Giallo just don't make sense. So maybe I'd be more accepting of it if it was Giallo and not a British movie. Fiend Without a Face. No, I'm thinking of Eyes Without a Face. That's a French film. Eyes Without a Face is great. Fiend Without a Face I don't think I've seen, but it's an alien movie. I think. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Fiend Without a Face. Witchfinder General. It's fun. I like Witchfinder General. I said earlier I liked Cry of the Banshee better. Although the movie I actually like better is the Witchfinder General ripoff, cash-in, riding the coattails of Witchfinder General, Mark of the Devil. But that's a German film, so I want to write a video about Mark of the Devil. There's so much I have to say about that. Day of the Triffids, have not seen it. Peeping Tom, excellent movie. Like early British proto-slide. It's like it's the British counterpart to Psycho, I think. Honestly, if I could program like a marathon of movies, I might do like violent movies from specifically 1960 from all over the world. It'd be Psycho, Peeping Tom, Eyes Without a Face, Black Sunday, and Jigoku. All movies I've referenced in this episode except for Jigoku. But it's like internationally, 1960, we were just like, hey, what if we put gore into our movie? Just every country in 1960, someone was like, let's put gore in this movie. Tales from the Crypt. Ooh, the original. I like it. I enjoy it. Although, if we're gonna talk British horror anthologies from the 70s, I think my favorite is Asylum. So, my recommendation to Asylum. The Abominable Dr. Phibes. Love it. Dr. Phibes Rises Again. Haven't seen it, actually. Although I was thinking of maybe doing like a Dr. Phibes triple feature eventually. Or, well, Dr. Phibes Rises Again, and Blood Theater, which is like kind of a ripoff of Dr. Phibes that gets Vincent Price back. Good list there, John. I really like these. These are all of these good choices for British horror, even the ones I haven't seen. I'm sure they're excellent. Oh, I forgot to get the movies out for next time. Well, no, they're both over there. That's the problem. Oh, God. I moved I rearranged my shelves, and now I gotta come all the way over here to get my fucking box sets. This isn't even the right box set. There's the right box set. So I promise after this week we're going to get to the foreign horror films I promised you guys. But since I was rounding off Hammer Horror, now I'm rounding off Universal monster movies with Creature from the Black Lagoon, Monolith Monsters, and Monster on Campus. Monolith Monsters I've heard good things about. Monster on Campus just has a funny title. So that's going to be our triple feature for tonight. Just finishing off some Universal horror. And after that, I swear we can get back to foreign films. I almost forgot to ask a question again. What's your favorite Universal horror film that just doesn't end up in the lineup with the other films that they always have? This is like Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Mummy are the big ones. And then usually they'll throw in The Invisible Man, The Wolf Man, and maybe Creature from the Black Lagoon? I've even seen Phantom of the Opera in there once or twice, so we'll count out Phantom of the Opera. But apart from the big seven, what's like the Universal monster movie you're like, yeah, that one deserves some more credit? Until next time, I'm Matt. Have a nice day.